Hello and welcome to this video tutorial where we will look at how to sort an Excel table using the value from a drop-down list. And this is a follow-up video from one that I released last week, which showed how to do this using modern Excel with the array formula engine and some of the new functions from the last few years. This video will focus on a legacy approach. Regardless of your Excel version, this is completely formula driven, and I've also avoided any type of array, even classic array formulas with the Control-Shift-Enter curly braces. There will be none of that. So when I select a value from cell B2, which currently has pizza and it's ordered A to Z by pizza, if I change that to something such as rating, we can see that it orders descending by that rating. So how was this done? Let's take a look underneath the bonnet. So here we go. I am on the report sheet. I have the drop-down list in cell B2 ready, and we have the headers but no pizzas this time. We're starting from scratch. Now over to this calc sheet, we are going to build up those results of pizzas driven in the order by the drop-down list from this table. And this table is named TBL pizza. Now the process that I took here is first of all to know which column was selected from the drop-down list, and I'll put that value in cell H4. Then we want to rank the pizzas by the values of that selected column, and then on the report sheet use some kind of lookup formula to pull across the pizzas in the order of that ranking. So step number one, cell H4, going to quickly put a match function in here, just like I did in that previous video, to capture which column was selected from the list. So the lookup value, if I pop along to report and select cell B2, put in my comma, the lookup array is the TBL pizza table, and I'm going to select the header row from it. And this will be an exact match, so 0 on the end. We'll close that off and run that match function. And that will just simply return the column number that was selected from the list. So currently we have column 5, which was the rating column. But just to demonstrate that in action, coming back to report and changing the drop down to sales, we'll then change that value to number 3. So that part is working, step number 1 done. Now step 2, creating a ranking for these values dependent on that column. This is the trickiest part of the job. And part of the reason that it's tricky is because we are ranking both text values in the name of the pizza and also numeric values with columns 2 through to 5. And we will handle those differently. Let's begin by just creating a rank column and adding that to our table. So I'm going to type rank in cell F4 here, the table we expand. I'm sure we're all big fans of tables. And I'm going to use a rank function to begin by ranking those rating values. And I'm going to use that column as a demonstration of the process that I took. So equals RANK.EQ, open up the bracket, and I want to rank the rating value, so the one of that row, comma, in the reference of that entire column, so the rating column. And then one more comma prompts me for the order, whether I want it to be descending or ascending. And in the case of these numeric values, we want them in that descending order. Now this is an optional question. It's going to put them in descending if I do not state this. So I could type 0, but I could also just ignore that question and run that formula, and very easily we've ranked those rating values. But one of the reasons I'm using rating for the demonstration is because I know that there is a tied value. I have 2 pizzas that have been rated at 4.4, So they are both being ranked number 2, and I need that to be a unique ranking. So coming back to the first formula, this is something that I've done quite a few times on videos over the years, where I've shown people how to rank sports performance in league tables based on criteria, is how do we make that unique? And what I do is on the end, I simply add a COUNTIFS function. This COUNTIFS function is going to have a constantly expanding range. I'm going to use some cell references here. I'm avoiding the table for this purpose as it is far simpler. So I'm going to reference E5, which is the Chicken Supreme. It's the first pizza in this list. And I'm going to have the E5 here. I'm typing it for simplicity as a, say that, make a mistake, as a fixed cell. But then the colon for the range, and the other side of that will be constantly expanding. So I type E5 again, but notice the lack of dollar before the 5. So when this formula is kind of filled down, let's say, that E5 will move to E6, E7, E8. So it constantly advances from E5 to E5, E5 to E6, E5 to E7, and so on. Comma, I'm going to test that against E5. So that first pizza. Close bracket -1, and if I press enter on this, that will uniquely rank them. And let's just get rid of that horrible error, just worrying about the omitted cells. So now we have successfully separated the Hawaiian and Margarita pizzas. Now the way that worked, just to be a little bit clear, is if we look at, for example, the Margarita one, the second 4.4, is at this point, when you look at the COUNTIFS function, it's checking range E5 to E8, so all the pizzas up to that point, and just counting how many times 4.4 occurs, which by this point is twice. We then subtract 1 from that, so it becomes 1, and that number 1 is added on top of the ranking. So it gets the ranking of 2, we add that 1 on top, now we've got 3, and we have that unique ranking. Now all of this is wonderful, but the rank function is not going to help us when we're ranking the text values of the pizza name. Let me demonstrate just in a random cell over to the side for a moment. If I put equals rank and I run that function and I test the first pizza name in the reference of pizza names, and I specify that I want this in the ascending order for a pizza name, and close bracket, I will get the hash value error because this rank function can only work on numeric values. So ranking these text values, we need an alternative approach. So I'm going to use a COUNTIFS function again here, and I will count in the range of the pizza names how many of those pizzas have a name that is less than or equal to the name of that current pizza. And if I run this formula, that will successfully give a ranking for those text values. So the beef sizzler is number 1, followed by chicken supreme, and so forth. Fantastic, we've now got a way of ranking the numeric values and a way of ranking the text values. Let's combine this within an if function, so that depending on the selected drop down, we know which formula to run. So I'm just going to take a copy of that COUNTIFS function and just escape that, come back to my rank formula, and I'm going to use the formula bar here so I can make it a little bit easier to read. I have an if function that will test if cell H4, and let's make that absolute, is equal to the value of 1. Did they select column 1? Comma, let's start a new line to make it easier to read. And this will be the COUNTIFS function, if I paste that in there. And let's just remove that equals from the beginning. So if it's column 1, run the COUNTIFS function to order the pizza names, comma. But if it's not, let's Alt Enter. Then we're going to do that rank calculation because it must be a numeric value. I'll close bracket on the end of that and run it, And this is what we now have, and I'll remove those horrible errors again. So the final problem with this ranking formula, which you may have noticed or you may be thinking, is that so far, if we look at the formula in the bar, it is still only testing the rating column for that ranking. And we need that to be dependent from the drop-down list value. So for this, what I did was I used the offset function. A brilliant function that doesn't necessarily get the credit it deserves for a variety of reasons, which we won't go into in this video. But that will be perfect for this task because I can offset the column by the value in cell H4. Now I'm going to write an offset function for the 3 elements of our rank calculation. So looking at that rank calculation, I have the current cell, so the at rating, that's the rating for the current cell. Then I have the rating column, so the entire column of ratings, or whatever it may be, sales or sold. And then when we look at the COUNTIFS, we've got that constantly expanding range as well, don't we? The E5 to the E whatever, dependent on the row. And I want a offset function for all of them. Now, if I put an offset function into those 3 elements of the formula, it would start to look a bit unwieldy. So what I took the approach of is defining a name for each of those and then using the name in the formula. So let's do that. Let me just clear an area here and let me look at those formulas. Okay, so the first offset is going to be for the single cell. So offset function. If you're quite new to the offset function, this may look a bit weird, a bit difficult at times. So you can always find more information on that on my website or elsewhere. But hopefully this won't be too bad. So the initial reference will be A5. That is the first cell of that table. And I'm using grid references as we want this to be dynamic, and I'm breaking away from the structure of that table. Now I do not want to fix the row 5 element because I need this to always move and be the current cell. I want that relative nature to it. Comma, how many rows are we moving? 0. Comma, how many columns are we moving? Well, that is specified by the value in H4. This is why we're using offset. We want to offset the column by the one selected in the drop-down. So I'm selecting H4, fixing it, and then -1. Because if they select column 1, I do not want to move one column to the right. I want to stay still. I want to stay on column A as it is here. So I'm always subtracting 1 from that offset value. Now for this one, the height is 1 and the width is 1. This is the single cell. I'll close that off and I'll just stick an apostrophe at the start of it just so that doesn't run and just leaves it there on screen for a moment, and I'll move on to the next one. I want to build in these 3 offset functions and then copy them all into defined names in one go afterwards, rather than doing it one after the other. The next offset is for the column. So this one will have a completely fixed cell, starting cell. The row again is 0. The columns again is that offset value. So H4, fix it, -1. But the real interesting bit here is now it's comma 6. So I'm keeping a constant there. There are 6 pizzas. Yes, these things can change, but I'm assuming we're not releasing pizzas on a hugely regular basis, and I'll just type in a fixed value there. Comma, the width is 1. Close that off. That will be our column. And then finally, an offset function for the ever expanding range that we used within the COUNTIFS. So it's got that fixed starting point. The row is 0. The column, once again, is that same thing. That offset value, fix it, -1 at comma. Now, this next one is the height. And the height is ever expanding. This is another reason why I went for offset. Makes it so much easier. And to do this, I've used the row function. And I will select the cell A1. And then just stick $1 before column A, so it doesn't move when we copy to the right. So obviously the row of A1 is 1, but when we copy this formula down, technically we won't be copying it, we'll put it into a defined name, but that relative nature of the reference will then move to A2, and that'll be row 2, and A3, and that'll be row 3. So it's constantly expanding from that fixed point of A5. Let's close off the row function, and once again, for that last bit, the width is 1. And they are our 3 offset functions. So what I now want to do is define a name for each of them. There, so let's start with the first one. If I come in and just take a copy of that formula, I'll go to the Formulas tab and define name. I'll enter a nice name for it, such as RNG sort cell, and just simply paste the formula in the refers to range. Click OK, and then repeat this process for the next 2. This one is the column, copy, define name. This one can be RNG sort column. Let's paste that in. OK. And for this last one, let's copy that. Define name. This can be RNG sort expand. And I'll paste that in. Click OK. And I've now got those maybe easy names. You may want to name them differently. RNG sort cell, RNG sort column, RNG sort expand, that I can use in my formula rather than copying those formulas in there that I've written in column I, which wouldn't be bad, but it's just going to make it look so complex and so messy. Okay, right, coming over to the rank formula then. Coming inside, over in the rank calculation, let's change the at rating to RNG sort cell. I'll change the rating column to RNG sort column. And in the COUNTIFS, we have the expanding range. That is RNG sort expand. Then we've got that single cell reference. So RNG sort cell again. Okay, let's press enter. And here we have it. So we currently have the rankings specified by column 3. We can see that in H4. So it's ordering by the sales value. So Meat Feast 693 ranking 1, Beef Sizzler 681 ranking 2. So that is working. Now if you're taking the same approach as me, when you copy and paste those offset functions into a defined name, just be careful of the relative references changing. So in the first offset we have A5. Just bear in mind that when you copy it into the defined name, the row number may change because it's relative. Just ensure when you define it that enters as 5. And also the same for A1 in the last offset. So you may have to go back and edit that name potentially. We could have typed those offset functions directly into the name box when defining them, but it's typically easier to do it in a cell because of the assistance you get when you're writing it. Okay, to finish this off, it's a case of coming over to the report sheet and writing a lookup formula to now return the values, and then we'll test what we have. So it's the index function for me, equals index. What is the array we're returning from? Well, that is TBL pizza and the pizza column. So I'm currently in that pizza column, comma. Okay, what is the row to return from? Let's get match to find that. And we're looking in the rank column to find the first ranking, then the second ranking, then the third ranking. So it's going to be different for each pizza. So I don't want to say look for number 1, because when I copy this down, I'll have to change that to 2, change it to 3. So I'm going to bring the row function again, just reference A1. I'll stick a $sign before the A, which is not necessary, but I love the consistency across formulas if they just refer to the same column. Let's close that off. Comma, what are you looking in? That's TBL pizza, the rank column. Now when I choose the rank column here, using a table reference, you have to bear in mind when I copy this formula to the right that that rank column will change. It will actually change to pizza and then sold and then sales. So what I want to do is just make that an absolute reference. an extra square bracket at the start. Let's close that, colon, that's another rank. If you're new to doing this, this is a bit crazy, but this is how you fix a table column reference. Comma 0, close off the match and the index. And this should be it. We can copy it across, copy it down, another 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we just tidying up that formatting so that it looks the part. Let's do these as well. Okay, and that should be that. So it's currently sorted by the sales value. We can see that in B2 and you can see the order in that sales column. But if I change that to rating, then it orders by rating. And if I change it to the name of the pizza, change to the name of the pizza, and this is what we have done. So using legacy formulas, no Control-Shift-Enter arrays, although that is a legitimate approach, but by using offset, index, match, COUNTIFS, these truly magical functions that I've loved over the years because of what they can make you do, have managed to get the job done here. And also defining formulas as a name, just to make our formulas easier on the eye rather than copying what would have been 4 offset functions into that already reasonably large formula. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please give it a like, subscribe to be notified about the latest videos at this channel. Take care, and I will see you again soon.